thanks for being here for the class today, you guys. And today for the Mindful Mat Pilates class, you'll need your roller, and you will also perhaps need a blanket or a towel, something of that nature for extra padding, maybe for hips or knees or hands, and then one or two yoga blocks. Okay, but today I thought we would do some stuff to really lengthen and open the body. And so to do that, what I'm thinking is we're going to start laying the full length of the roller. So what I'd like you to do is to lay the roller up the center of your mat, and then position yourself. The easiest way I find to get on the roller is to have it in front of me and then turn, sideways and sort of turn around and get my tailbone on the roller, and then I can just roll my spine all the way out onto the roller. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it any way you want to, but I find that to be pretty simple. And then once you're on the roller, you want to just arrange your body kind of the way that you would arrange. Once you put your shirt on, you might make a couple of extra adjustments just to unrumple your shirt when you're wearing it. And I find the same is true when I get onto the roller. I want to take a moment to sort of unrumple my body and get myself better adjusted on the roller so that it's really just supporting the line of my spine. And then the rest of my skeleton and muscular tissue is hanging off of either side of the roller. Make sure that your head is centered, and you can take your fingers back behind your skull to make sure that the center of your skull is on the roller. And then let's just bring our arms out wide and turn your arms for the moment so that the backs of your hands are on the floor, and let your elbows be soft, right? So your arms are pretty relaxed. Your feet are flat on the mat, so you have good tactile feedback through the feet. And let's just do some very gentle rocking from side to side with attention between the buttocks. So that part of the spine, way down there between the buttocks. Of course, we have the very base of the spine, which is the coccyx, called the tailbone. But there's a much more robust part of the spine down there called the sacrum, right? And the sacrum is sometimes referred to as the back of the pelvis. But actually, there is really no back of the pelvis. What we feel back there is the spine, right? That flat hardness between the buttocks is the spine, and it is the sacrum, which is a series of vertebrae that are naturally fused together into one quite large, long, flat-ish bone. And so we're just rocking back and forth, massaging the tissue across the sacrum between the buttocks. And as I'm rocking, I'm kind of swaying my hips a little bit on purpose because I'm trying to stretch that muscle tissue away from the coccyx, away from the tailbone, right? And the base of the sacrum. And when you actually start pressing a little bit and pulling, you might experience a little bit of tenderness because we tend to be very gripped down there in that part of the spine. So we're just trying to free up the fascia, right? The connective tissue in that area. And then let's come to center. And we're going to do something similar for the muscle tissue between the scapula, which are called the shoulder blades in slang. But the scapula is the anatomical term for the shoulder blades. And we're going to, again, go into this rocking. But we want to rock with focus on the upper body. And we're trying to move ourselves in this rocking in a way that starts to free up the tissue that runs between the spine and the scapula. Scapulae, I suppose, would be the plural. So just play with how to move your body to get some palpation of that fascia that's between the scapula and the spine. And then come to stillness in the center. Now take your arms and reach your arms out across the floor and turn your palms to face down. Okay, so in reaching, what we're going to do is we're going to create a little bit of muscular tension in the upper body and the arms to create a sense of stretching out from the center of the chest, the deep center of the chest, to the tips of the fingers. Okay? So you're reaching out from center through the shoulders, down the arms, through the hands, all the way out through the tips of the fingers. And so we could consider this what's called an isometric contraction because we're not really moving. We're just actively stretching. But at some point, you can tell that you're no longer changing the length of the muscle tissue. You're simply holding this effort of being engaged in this lengthened position. And that's what makes this isometric. And we're going to hold that for 3 full breaths without losing that work in the muscle tissue. So take 2 more breaths. And then begin to soften the arms and let your hands roll over so the palms are facing up and the backs of the hands are on the floor and your elbows are fully relaxed. Elbow joints are relaxed. Now go back to that rocking sensation on the roller with your focus in the upper torso, the region between the scapula. And again, you're rocking to massage that area between the 2 scapula and the spine. And you'll feel a lot of change in your arms when you're doing this. My arms are actually, I'm kind of pushing off my elbows a little bit to get more rocking in my upper body. And then pause that again, coming to center. With the backs of the hands on the floor, begin to extend out through the tips of the fingers without actually lifting the fingers off the ground. So I can feel the tips of my fingernails on the floor, not all of them, pretty much only my middle and ring fingers are the only fingernails I can feel touching the ground. Right? And again, I'm actively reaching my arms out from the center of my chest all the way out through the tips of my fingers. So you reach out and then you'll reach a point, you'll get to a point where there's no change in the length of the muscle tissue, but you're still actively contracted. That's an isometric effort. We're going to hold that for 3 breaths. So you're working your muscles, but there's no change in the length. Take 1 more full breath. And then soften the effort. Let the elbows relax. Let the arms relax. And 1 more time, go back to that rocking. Really allowing your torso to be soft and malleable as you roll your roller a little bit from side to side. And then come to stillness and bring your arms onto your mat with your palms facing down. So we're going to do a big arm circle. And we're going to lengthen all the connective muscle tissue and fascial tissue on the front and sides of the body associated with this motion, right? So I want you to raise both of your arms up into the air and lengthen the whole front of your body to reach your arms overhead. Circle your arms out wide and bring your arms back down onto the mat, right? So you might feel a stretch from your belly all the way up your chest into your arms. You might feel the stretch from your lower abdomen all the way up the front of your torso and around. You might feel the stretch from the floor of your pelvis all the way up your trunk as you reach your arms around. The point is that there's no limit to what you can lengthen to make it more comfortable for you to reach your arms. Let's take that twice more. No strain. You should be able to do this pain-free by modifying and making it appropriate for your body. Take one more circle, and then let those arms come all the way down onto the mat. Okay. Now, we're going to bring the right leg up into a tabletop position with the foot flexed to start, okay? And what we'll do is we're going to start to reach the right leg away from us, pointing the foot. Now, I want you to pause and lift your head and look down at your legs. And when you stretch your right leg long, your right leg should not have dropped below the height of your left knee, okay? And then retract your leg back to tabletop. So as you stretch your right leg away from you, you're not dropping it down, right? It's stretching out on the diagonal, but it doesn't drop down below the height of the left knee. Now, as you stretch your right leg, you might feel it tug on your pelvis on the right side. You might feel it tug on your lower abdomen. You might feel the stretch of your right leg tug on your right shoulder, right? You might feel that tug all the way up your body. Let's do that twice more. Really nice long stretch, active stretch for that right leg. Retract the leg and place the foot back down. Okay. So let's bring the left leg up into tabletop, and we'll start with the foot in flexion, okay? And again, as we extend the leg and point the foot, I want you to pause, lift your head, and look at the height of your left leg relative to your right knee, right? So your left leg shouldn't have dropped down below your right knee. Now begin to flex and extend your left leg, actively lengthening your left leg so that you actually feel the lengthening of your left leg pulling on the connective tissue of your lower trunk, maybe pulling on the connective tissue of your middle trunk and even your upper trunk. But you're not dropping your leg down. You're reaching your leg out. One more time, actively reaching. And then place that left foot down onto the floor. Let's come off of the roller. Put the roller off to the side and come onto the hands and knees. With your feet long, so the tops of the feet are resting on the mat. Spread the fingers wide, right? Coming into a neutral spine. And then we'll work on extension of the spine and flexion of the spine, right? So this position that we're starting in is neutral. So it's neither flexion or extension, it's neutral, right? So flexion of the spine is what we call the cat, where we tuck the pelvis, round the back of the rib cage, tuck the chin, right? And this is flexing the spine. Then we come back to neutral. Now, extension is usually called arching the spine. This is extending the spine. We're engaging the back muscles to shorten those back muscles. And then we're coming back to neutral. Flexing the spine is done with abdominal muscles, coming back to neutral. Extension of the spine is done with back muscles, coming back to neutral. Stomach muscles, flex, return to neutral. Spinal muscles, extend, coming back to neutral. Abdominals, flex. Releasing that comes to neutral. Back muscle contraction, extends, coming back to neutral. One more time. Flexion of the spine to neutral. Extension of the spine, coming back to neutral. And then let's turn and come off of our hands and grab a yoga block, coming onto our backs. Placing the yoga block between your thighs, close to your knees, with your yoga block in the medium wide, not skinniest, not super wide, medium wide. Okay. Now I want you to start by looking at your feet. So lift your head and look at your foot placement. And your foot placement should feel like it corresponds to where your knees are, which is affected by the width of the block. Now, once you know that your feet and knees are about the same distance apart, I want you to start gently kind of crawling your feet a little further away from the backs of your hip joints. So you have your feet are more in front of where your knees are and not underneath your knees. Okay? Slide your arms down alongside your body. Contract your inner thigh muscles so you feel a nice muscular contraction of the inner thighs. Take a deep breath. And as you exhale, begin to roll the pelvis and the spine, that's flexion, right, up into the bridge, and then rise up to neutral. Take a deep breath. You're flexing the spine as you roll back down and returning to neutral. Rolling is flexing the spine to come up into bridge, but then you release the spine to neutral. You flex the spine again, coming down, releasing to neutral. So your abdominal muscles are going to change the shape of your spine as you're rising up into bridge, but then they let go at the top because you're neutral. And then your abdominals engage again to roll yourself back down and release to come to neutral. So your abdominals, again, they're doing something to the shape of your spine. They're not lifting you off the floor. You couldn't do it. There's no way that your abdominal muscles are lifting you up off the floor. So what's lifting you up off of the ground? Your legs. The strength of your legs. You're pressing through your feet, engaging your legs. They lift you up and they lower you back down. And your arms, you're pressing through your hands, you're engaging the muscles of your arms to come up and go back down. Legs are stronger, they do more work than arms, right? So each set of limbs does an appropriate amount of work to support you in the bridge. Let's go 2 more for a total of 10 bridges. Just getting it clear in our minds which muscles do what. One more time with the bridge. And then coming all the way back down. Really nice. Let's take out the block and just tip those legs a little bit from side to side. And then let's do a little bit of work to free up the feet. So let's stay on our backs, set the block to the side. Stretch your left leg out onto the mat with a little bit of muscle tone to keep the leg in a straight line. Bring the right leg to tabletop and reach your hands around the back of your thigh. You can interlace your fingers or just hold the back of your thigh. Doesn't matter, okay? Now, try to keep your shin and your knee still as you do 10 circles with your right foot, right? So the muscles that you're using to circle your foot around the ankle joint are in your shin, in your calf, and they run down to the arch of your foot. So you can actually, you don't even need toes to be able to do an ankle circle. You could chop off the end of your foot and you could still do an ankle circle. Let's reverse the direction of the movement. So the long muscles of the shin, the long muscles of the calf, and these muscles run all the way to the arch of the foot. Now pause that movement of circling the ankle with your foot in flexion. We're going to straighten the leg and point the foot, and then flex the foot and bend the knee. So we're straightening and pointing and flexing and bending. Straightening and pointing, flexing and bending. The muscles on the front of your thigh, your quadricep muscles, are the muscles that straighten out your knee. The muscles of your calf are the muscles that point your foot, and the muscles of your shin are the muscles that flex your foot. Let's do a couple more. And you can tell which muscles flex your foot because I bet your shin is starting to burn by now. One more time. And then release that right leg all the way down. So you should have, basically, from doing that work, a really nice sense of heat in your thigh and your shin and your calf, right? So good heat there, good circulation. Let's do the same thing to the other leg. Right leg is straight, bring the left leg to tabletop, hold behind your thigh. We're gonna start with ankle circles, right? So again, these are the long muscles of the shin, the long muscles of the calf that run through the foot to the arch of the foot. We're doing 10 circles in one direction, and then 10 circles in the other direction, doing the best that we can to keep prevent the shin from moving. So the knee isn't rocking around. Really work those long muscles of your lower leg. And then pause with your foot flex. So that's the muscles of your shin. Now, as you straighten the knee and point, we've got quads and calf. We release the quads and engage the muscles of the shin to flex the foot. So quads and calf, and then shin. Quads and calf, and shin. Now you might be wondering, well, what muscles are bending the knee? Well, actually, it's just the release of the quadriceps and gravity, right? So you're not using the muscles that are knee flexors yet. We'll get there, but just in this position, you don't really have to use your hamstrings. Let's do a couple more. And one more. And then release that leg all the way down, and you should have a nice sense of heat in your quads and your shins and your calves from doing that work, okay? Now, let's work the muscles that flex the knee. So let's roll over onto our stomachs. Come over onto your abdomen with your legs long and your legs in parallel, and we're going to start with the feet pointed. So the tops of your feet are resting on the mat, and then just let your hands overlap and your forehead come to rest on your hands. Now, when you're laying on your back, when you're laying on your stomach, I want you to have two groups of muscles pre-toned. I want you to feel your buttocks are toned, right? And your buttocks, when your buttocks contract, it's very close to your spine, right? That's where you feel your glute muscles contract, right? We have this idea, I think, that our butt muscles are way out to the side. The glutes contract right up the center line of the body, okay? And then I want your thighs to have a little bit of tone as well, okay? So your legs are toned from the glutes all the way down. Now, what we're going to do is work our hamstrings, which are the muscles just above the back of the knee. And maintaining that muscle tone in glutes and thighs, you're going to flex your right knee and then place your foot down, and then flex your left knee and place your foot down. So you're engaging those lower hamstrings, just one leg at a time, maintaining the muscle tone in your glutes, and turning on and off the muscle tone in your quads. Do that one more time for each leg with your foot pointed. And then do it 5 more times with your foot flexed when you flex your knee. So you feel almost continual work in your glutes, on, off work in your quads, on, off work in your hamstrings. Let's go one more for each leg. And then we can bring our hands to the mat and pick ourselves up and come right back into a quadruped position to do another round of flexion and extension. So we're again coming into a neutral spine, right? Engaging the muscles on the front of the body to create flexion of the spine, releasing to neutral, contracting the muscles of the spine to create extension, coming back to neutral. Flexion, neutral, extension, neutral. Flexion, neutral, extension, neutral. Twice more. Right. Feeling the right muscles. We're contracting to flex the spine, releasing to neutral, contracting to extend the spine, releasing to neutral, and then let's come off of our hands, shake out your wrists, and we'll come onto our side, okay? So we're gonna use the roller to do a movement for the upper body. And so what you're gonna do is lay on, I'm gonna say left side, because that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna have you lay on your left side. And before I block myself with the roller, I'm just gonna show you. So I'm gonna lay on my left side, okay? And if it's not comfortable for you to have your left arm straight up, remember that you can always do that thing where you have your arm on a slight diagonal and your head on a block, okay? So I'm gonna go on my arm, and the legs are both gonna be flexed. Okay, so they're in like tabletop on your side. And then the roller is going to go in front of you on the floor. Okay, and you're going to touch the roller with your right hand, and your right arm is flexed, right? So your elbow is what we call bent, but it's not bent, it's flexed. Okay, so here's the movement for your upper body. You're going to roll the roller away from you, and you'll get a little bit of rotation in your trunk, and then you'll come back to where you started. So you're gonna, your nose is gonna crash into the floor. So I'm kind of purposefully avoiding smashing my face into the floor, but I am rotating my head with my upper body as I do this movement. And it's kind of smashing my left breast into the floor a little bit, but it's not too bad. So hopefully that's tolerable for you guys. It's also really stretching out my other shoulder. Let's do that one more time. Now, come up and take the roller sideways and put it underneath your ribs. Okay, now, where exactly should you put the roller? Well, I don't know, because your proportions are different from my proportions. So you want the roller to give your rib cage a little bit of support so that you don't have all your weight on your bottom arm, right? So you do have weight on your bottom arm, but then you figure out where to wedge the roller underneath you so that it's giving you extra support, okay? And notice how my bottom arm is positioned. It's slightly rotated, so my forearm and hand are out on a diagonal, okay? Now, you don't try to lift your head and look straight ahead. Let yourself look at the room sideways so your neck is in line with the rest of your spine. And lift your whole right leg, not just your knee, but also your foot up off of your bottom leg. So you're holding your leg horizontally, right? Rest your top hand on the roller. Now you're going to reach your leg back and balance. Reach your leg back and balance your torso, and then bring your leg back to hover over the bottom leg. So you're reaching your leg back. And what muscles are we feeling here? Well, golly, we're feeling the glutes for sure, and the quadricep muscles, and the calf muscles, because I'm pointing my foot as I reach back. And I'm trying to really lengthen the muscle tissue on the front of the hip and the thigh by getting good activation of the muscles that are responsible for extension. This is extension from the hip. The leg is extending backwards. That's extension. And let's do 2 more of those. And 1 more. And then take a rest. Woo! Okay, so now we're going to set up to do those same 2 movements on the second side. So returning over, we're starting with our legs stacked and bent, our bottom arm reaching up, right? The roller is going to be in front of you. And your hand is on the roller, okay? So we're really getting some rotation in this position. As we roll the roller away from us, you're turning, right? I'm turning my face into the floor. And I'm turning my chest into the floor. So on this side, because I have less resistance in my neck, when I do this, my head actually turns easily to the point where my left ear is almost on the floor when I'm doing this. Actually, it's more like my left cheek. Now, I couldn't do the same amount of movement on the other side. So you just do what you do. But my point in telling you, it's not that I'm trying to turn my head, I'm turning my whole upper body as the roller goes out. And this is really stretching your bottom shoulder. Let's do a couple more. Hopefully it's tolerable in your breast tissue. One more time like that. And then come all the way in. Now we're going to prop up. We're going to, again, take the roller. And we're going to come up. Oh, that's really nice. It kind of loosened up my lungs. So we are going to put some weight on this bottom arm, right? So we're going to position the bottom arm so that the elbow is under the shoulder and get a little external rotation of this arm so that the shoulder muscles are more neutrally involved, right, in support. And then the roller is going to fit somewhere on this underside of your body to give your shoulder additional support, right? So you just have to figure out where that is. Now, start with both of your legs flexed and stacked, and then pick up your top leg so that your foot and your knee and your foot are equidistant from your bottom knee and your foot, okay? And then let your top hand rest. So we're going to point the foot and we're going to reach, engage the calf, the quads, and the glutes, and then flex and return to the starting point. So you're reaching and really opening up this whole swath of anterior hip and thigh tissue, lower abdomen, hip and thigh tissue that needs to lengthen on the front of the body. And it will lengthen as much as it is able when we contract the right muscles for the job. The calf muscles, the front of the thigh, and the glutes on the back of the hip. Let's do a couple more. reaching. Deceptively challenging. We'll do 2 more. Focus on the muscles of the hip and the leg. 1 more seems good. Let's just push it. 1 more. Feel the burn, as Jane used to say, and then relax. Oh, good job. Let's roll onto our backs. Let's roll onto our backs. And lay in the center of your mat so that you can spread your legs apart so that your feet are as wide apart as your mat is. And then bring your hands behind your head with your elbows wide. Now, right now, as I just lay on the floor, my legs are relaxed. And when my legs are relaxed, they just kind of naturally roll. They just roll open, right? So what I'm going to do is put a little muscle tone into my legs so that my knees are just a little bit more rotated towards the ceiling and less rolled away from center. And we're going to do full body flexion on the diagonal, right? So this is where we curl up to the right and we bring the right knee across the body and then return to center. And then we curl up to the left and we bring the left knee across the front of the body. So we're really trying to get that knee to come over to the other side, which is a lot of work for the muscles of the lower abdomen, hip, and thigh. Lower abdomen, hip, and thigh. I mean, upper abdomen is also working really hard. But let's make sure the leg muscles, the leg and hip muscles are doing a lot of good work here. When I bring my leg across effectively, my butt actually comes up off the floor on that side. So we're using our lower abdominals, hip flexor muscles. Let's go 1 more time to each side. Upper abdominals, oblique muscles. And then come back to center. Relax the arms out wide. Bend the knees and take your feet as wide apart as your mat if you can. And slowly tilt your legs in one direction, letting your ribs soften. And just hold here and breathe. Right, so if your ribs are tight, they'll kind of jut up and that will really put a lot of pressure into your low back. So let your ribs drop, just let your ribs relax. Let's come through center, tilt the legs to the other side and soften the ribs. Come back to center, keeping the feet wide, tilt again, right? This is a position that really illustrates for us the connection of all of the muscle tissue of the body, right? That we are not individual compartmental musculature. You can feel something from your foot all the way up your body through your arm, right? So that's that muscular connection. Let's tilt the other way. Softening the ribs, softening the muscles of the hip. And then coming back to the center. Now, let's straighten out our legs, okay? And bring the arms out wide. And I'll give you an option. You can either have your hands up or turn your palms down. Doesn't matter to me, okay? And then bring one leg. So feet pointed, right? Bring your right leg up, but don't bring it all the way up. So see how my leg is angled slightly down? So what I want you to do, instead of thinking of a circle, I want you to think of the capital letter D. So you're going to draw a straight line across, circle down and out, and then draw a straight line across, circle down and out, draw a straight line across and circle around, right? Straight line across, circle around. One more time like that, straight line across, circle around. Now come to the center with your legs slightly low. That's a lot of work for the muscles of your hip and lower abdominals. Go out to the side straight, circle down and around. Come across straight. You're drawing a straight line across, half circle. Draw a straight line across. Use the right muscles. Half circle. Two more. Straight line across. Half circle. One more. Straight line across. Half circle. Bend that knee and hug that leg. She did really good work. Give her a nice hug. And then release that leg down. Now, when we do the second side, I'm going to give you a little bit more information, right? So again, you're laying on your back. You have your leg up in the air. You're drawing this line in space, this straight line across. Then you're doing the arc. And then you're drawing a line across again, right? And what's important is that when you're drawing this line across with your leg, your whole pelvis isn't drawing the line. Your pelvis is just sitting there. It's on the floor. The muscles that move your leg across are what are doing the work. Inner thigh, outer hip, right? That's the muscles that adduct and abduct. So let's make sure we can really feel that. So arms out, bring the left leg up, but not all the way, foot pointed. So you're drawing a line across to the right. That's adduction. Half circle, you're going to end up wide. Those are the muscles on the outside of your hip. Now you're using your inner thigh to come across. Do the half circle. Now you're in your outer hip muscles. Now you're coming across. Inner thigh, half circle. Feel the right muscles doing the job. This is a lot of work for the inner thigh to come across. One more. Stop in the middle. Now your inner thigh is still going to do a lot of work to take the leg out to the side. It's lengthening under the weight of the leg. Circle half, across. Now your outer hip muscles are going to bring you through center. Your inner thigh controls it. Half circle. Outer hip brings you to center. Inner thigh controls the outward motion. Half circle. Two more. Feel the muscles that surround your inner thigh and outer hip. Do the job. One more. Come to center. Bend the knee. Give that left leg a hug. She did a great job. That's a lot of work for the hips. And then release that leg all the way down. Good. Now, let's turn all the way over onto our abdomen and grab our roller. And we're going to do a little myofascial release for our upper thighs. So I want you to come onto your knees and have the roller in front of you. Okay. And then lower your thighs, the middle of your thighs onto the roller, and bring your elbows and forearms and hands onto the mat, shoulder distance apart. Okay. Now, if I don't tone the muscles on the front of my body, gravity will allow me to sag into extension. So I'm going to create a little bit of muscle tone in my abdominals just to have neutral in this position. And then we're going to work on rolling the upper thigh tissue. Keep your head up, right? So you don't need to strain the muscles in the back of your neck. You can look at the floor, but don't look straight down at the floor. Try to look about 1.5 to 2 feet in front of your mat. So your head is in the right position, and we're really focusing on the thigh muscle tissue from the middle up to the groin area. Let's do a few more back and forths, maintaining some of that abdominal muscle tone. And then we're going to just sort of push back and come off the roller and come onto our knees, right? Now, even though I had, muscle tone in my abdominals when I was doing that, I can still feel some tightness in my back. So let's come onto hands and knees just for a moment and engage the abdominal wall to do the flexion, right? So I'm not pushing with my arms, not pushing with my legs. I'm contracting my abdominals to get to this shape. And that's what lets my back muscles let go. And then release to neutral. Now, we're going to come back into the same situation with the upper thigh, the middle to upper thigh on the roller, okay? Same position for your upper body. But this time, I want you to slightly shift the weight through your hips so you feel more weight on the front of your right thigh. You still can feel your left thigh on the roller, but now you have significantly more pressure in the front of your right thigh. Notice if your head has collapsed. Now come back to having equal weight on both legs. And then shift through your hips a little bit so that you can roll more on the front of your left thigh. Come back to center again, rolling with equal weight. And whichever leg felt tighter, do that upper thigh one more time. So my right felt tighter, so I'm going to shift my hips and do the right one a little bit more. The left one actually felt fine. And then come back to equal weight, and we're going to push ourselves back off of the roller. Really nice. Let's come off the roller. Now, we need a slippery surface for the next movement. So, if you have a blanket handy, you could throw a blanket over the top of your mat. If you don't have a blanket handy, you could lay on your carpet, right? But you need a surface that is not sticky. You want to lay on a surface that's not sticky. Okay. Great. And then once you're on that surface that has a slipperiness to it, I'm going to have you lay on your back. And when you lay on your back, you're going to bring the bottoms of your feet together to touch. And then you're going to slip your hands behind your head. So your inner thighs are open. Right? And your feet are going to stay on the floor at all times. You're not going to try to lift your legs up off the ground. Okay? And what you're going to try to do is bend side to side, right? Bending from side to side. So I'm going to do it slowly so that you can see what I'm doing. My feet are sliding and I'm bending my spine from side to side. So I'm bending. I don't lift anything. I don't lift my head. I don't lift my arms. I don't lift my legs. Not twisting, but bending. So this is the oblique muscles and the muscles on the sides of the hips working together to bend you, and your back muscles as well. I don't mean to disregard those back muscles. Let's go one more time, side to side. Come back to the center, stand your feet flat, release your head, and then bring your knees into your chest. And gently circle your knees around to massage the back of your pelvis. Okay, and then circle in the opposite direction. And then release your feet. So we're going to do that again because sometimes it takes a little bit to figure it out. So first of all, what muscles are doing the work? Well, we have several groups that are working together when we're doing that. So we're working these oblique muscles on the side of the torso. We're working the muscles on the side of the spine, right? So if I'm bending to the right, I'm contracting my right obliques, my right side back muscles, and my right side hip muscles, right? So I'm making a contraction all on my right side and a little bit into my back to bend to the right. And when I want to bend to the left, I'm doing the same thing, engaging obliques, engaging left side spinal muscles, engaging left hip muscles, right? So you're just going back and forth between squeezing one side, and that's the direction you're going to bend, squeezing the other side, and that's the direction that you're going to bend. You're not trying to push yourself into a bend because that's not how muscles work. You're pulling by contracting, by shortening, okay? So let's play with it again. Same movement. Bottoms of the feet together, hands behind your head, laying in the middle of your mat, and feel how you have to contract your left side muscles to bend to the left, releasing back to the center and bending your right side muscles to bend to the right. And you're doing this movement all the way from your head through your pelvis to your feet. Do it one more time from side to side. Come back to the center, release your head, gather your shins or your knees so you're in a little upside down child's pose, and circle around to release whatever you might be feeling in your back. Reverse those circles. Now, they say that third time's the charm. So we're going to do it one more time, but I'm going to give you another piece of information. Okay. So is there anything that we can do with the abdomen, the muscles strictly relating to the front of the abdomen that might be useful? Yes. You might notice that when you're doing this effort, your back really goes deep into extension, right? Mine certainly does. So a little bit of muscle tone from the pubic bone to the breastbone. That's, you've got one gorgeous abdominal muscle line that goes right between those 2 points. Just a little bit of muscle tone right up the center channel of the front of your body will help to alleviate the depth of the extension that you're getting in your spine when you do that, right? So I'm going to exaggerate. I'm going to show you. So if I do the movement without any muscle tone in the front, I feel a lot of arching, right? I have a ton of arch in my back. But if I have a little bit of muscle tone on the front and I sustain that, and then I start to do the movement from side to side, it changes how much my spine extends. My spine is still extending, but not as much because I'm using that long strip of abdominal muscle that goes from the groin up to the chest. Okay, so let's try it one more time, and let's play with adding that third piece to the puzzle. So whenever you're ready to try it again, notice if that made a difference. Take it one more time from side to side. And then come to center, release your head, draw your knees into your chest and circle all the way around in one direction. And circle around in the other direction. Release your feet, right? Good. So hopefully that last little piece of information that I gave you about how to use the ones in the front, right, helped to alleviate some of that tendency to get hyper extended in the back, right? So extension, okay. Hyper extension, something we want to avoid. And we use abdominals to provide that last little bit of protection to avoid that hyperextension. In any case, let's do something with our abdominals to release ourselves from that. So let's come to a seated position. No prop underneath you, just sitting on the floor, okay? Even if that means that you can't sit completely upright, that's fine. You don't need to, because we're going to do a roll up and you're going to work in varying degrees of spinal flexion. So legs out in front of you, you can point your feet, bring your arms forward, draw your abdominals in. So what you're going to do is create spinal flexion. Now that doesn't mean that you have to drop your head and suck in your shoulders, right? You don't have to suck in your upper body. Really feel that in your abdomen, right? Feel that in your abdominals. Now, take that feeling and make it stronger so that you can roll out onto the floor. Now, relax that muscle tension and take a big stretch overhead. Circle your arms across the floor, curl up. Now, work from your abdomen, curling all the way through to gentle flexion. Rolling back, taking the stretch, giving it a little more speed, curling up. Rolling back, taking that nice stretch, circling up. We'll do that one more time, rolling back, taking the stretch, circling up, and then rolling all the way out onto your back, pulling up your pants if your pants fell down, getting yourself back onto your mat. And then just allow your body to lay, just relaxed and splayed on the floor. And as you breathe, breathe deeply, feeling the movement in your chest and in your abdomen. Allow your limbs to be completely relaxed on the ground. And just take a few moments at the end of practice to notice the sensations in the body. You might identify warmth or a sense of tingling in the body, circulation, vitality. It's important to bring attention to the positive outcomes of hard work, because that's what nourishes our commitment to doing the work. Take another deep breath in and out. And then bend your knees and stand your feet. Let your legs rock gently from side to side. And then roll to your side for a moment before you press yourself up